Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Hope things are going well. Hope you guys find yourself well, well fed, well rested, and ready to get back to work for the kingdom of God when we get back together. This time has been challenging, from large things down to the small things. One of the small things was I was looking for someone to cut my hair for quite some time. And as you can see, I got a haircut from my children. You may have seen on Facebook. I let them cut my hair yesterday, did a Facebook Live, and they cut it. And then I cut some of it, my wife cut some of it, and it turned out all right. It's good enough. Feels a lot better than being shaggy totally. So we're excited about that. If you guys want to watch that, you can catch it on my Facebook page, just if you're friends with me. It's the latest post that I just put up. It was quite funny to see the kids' faces as they were buzzing away on Dad's head. But it is Sunday morning. I was trying to get this out yesterday, but didn't have time. So I'm recording that this morning. So for the next few weeks, I want to talk about faith. In this time, our faith is being challenged, it's being tested, and I want to discuss it, its implications for our lives, how we walk in faith instead of fear. And over the next several weeks, we'll be doing that, going through a discussion. And again, if you guys have questions, you can email us at info@activateme.tv, or you can post on Facebook. We are watching those things, so if you want to post questions on Facebook or want to stay connected on there, please do so. You can also post in the comments of this video here on YouTube, and we'll try and link this over at Facebook also. So for the next few weeks, we want to talk about faith, and we want to talk about faith because what we have faith in, we act on. And it's our actions in the world that orient us to our surroundings. That it's our actions in the world that give us the feeling of being connected, of having purpose in our life and being on mission. So we want to talk about some of those things. See, when we have belief and confidence in our actions, that will create change. When we have belief and confidence that our actions will create change, we have faith necessary to proceed in God's will and build the kingdom of God. And this is a time where we need to capitalize on building God's kingdom and reaching people. I've got a story at the end that is very heartening. And I think there are going to be millions of stories like this coming out of this time. So we'll get to that in a few moments at the end of this talk here. The question I want to tackle this week is, what is faith? What is faith? We use the word all the time, and I don't know that we have a great grasp of it, because I don't know that I've had a great grasp of what the word faith means. We can use it interchangeably with some other words, and sometimes you just say you got to have faith. Even George Michael knew that. You got to have faith, right? So this week I want to tackle what is faith. But first, I need to define a couple of words first here in this first part. The first one is belief. See, belief is an opinion or judgment in which a person is fully persuaded. Like, I believe that if I were to drop these papers right now, they would fall to the ground. That's a belief that I have. It informs my faith. See, belief is pretty straightforward. Faith, on the other hand, though, can be a bit confusing. We don't all know what faith means. See, the words faith and belief are similar, and Nelson's Bible Dictionary defines faith as a belief in or a confident attitude toward God, involving commitment to His will for one's life. Nelson also says belief is to place one's trust in God's truth, which means we have to know what God's truth is to be able to place our faith in it, to be able to place our beliefs, to believe those things, to be able to place our faith in God so that we can know His truth and we can have faith and confidence in what He's doing and leading us in for our lives. So let's look at it this way. In the book of James, chapter 2, 14 through 17, James's brother says this: "What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone? Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing, and you say, 'Goodbye and have a good day.' stay warm and eat well, but then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. So what kind of faith do we have? Are we putting our faith into action? And we're going to dig into that a little bit more today. Because until we take action, our faith is just a bunch of words. It's just an idea. It's not who we are. It's not what we're living out. It's not a meaningful life that we're living. And James says that unless faith produces action, it is in fact dead. And it's not really even faith at all. It's just an idea. So I think this is where some of the confusion comes in. And so why is this important necessarily right now? Why should we be talking about faith right now? I think it's fairly obvious in many ways. Many of us are fearful. Many of us are challenged by the ideas of what's going to happen in this world. See, we need faith right now more than ever. It's important now because we believe that our future is in flux. Like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know when we're going to be able to meet again. I don't know when my kids are going to go back to school. None of those answers that I knew, a lot of the things that I knew 7 weeks ago, or I thought I knew 7 weeks ago, have been changed. They're just not true at this moment. So we need faith more than ever right now. And it's important because what we believe about our future is in flux. Like I said, when we question our beliefs, we become paralyzed in our action, and our faith is dead. Because if we're not acting out our faith, it is in fact dead, just like James said. See, none of us foresaw what we would be living out today, that we would all be holed up in our homes, that people would be wearing masks when we go to the grocery store, that it would be people would be getting fined if they didn't wear masks when they were out in public. None of us knew what tomorrow would look like, let alone next week, month, or next year. See, what will we be able to do? When? Where? How? When will we be able to meet again? What will life look like going forward? What is it going to look like? I mean, when we get to be back together, what is it going to look like? Are we going to have to wear masks for a while? We're not going to be able to hug one another? We're going to have to do that weird elbow bump thing? Or what is it going to be like? See, all these questions can be overwhelming if not put into the perspective and viewed through a faith that, let's go over a few things. Through a faith, if these things are not viewed through a faith that God is not surprised by COVID-19 and its ramifications on the world, that God is in control, that God is working this out for His and our good. God is shaping us through the trial for building His kingdom. And God is using this to grow His kingdom. Again, I want to talk about that story there at the end of a friend of mine. I'm so excited about it because I think it's just, I think it's a glimpse of what we have to look forward to, of what God is doing in this world. So let's take a look now. Let's take a look at how faith and belief can be confusing. We're going to jump into the book of Matthew, chapter 17, verse 20. In the New Living Translation, it reads this way. Now, what had happened is there was a demon-possessed person, and the disciples could not cast out the demon. And then Jesus came over, and then this is what happened. It says, and they asked, why couldn't we do that? Because Jesus casts the demon out, he goes away, and the disciples asked, why couldn't we do that? And Jesus says to them, you don't have enough faith. Jesus told them, I tell you the truth, if you had faith even as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible if we had enough faith. See, he says they don't have enough faith, acknowledging that they do have some faith, though. And it's kind of confusing because then he says then that they only need faith as small as a mustard seed. So how much, what's between a mustard seed and no faith? Right? I mean, like at this time, that's kind of confusing because at this time, they didn't know about atoms. I mean, they didn't know about molecules and atoms at that point. So I think Jesus was saying you have to have just the tiniest amount of faith, is what it seems like he's saying in this text back to his disciples. See, it's not as though they knew about atoms at this point. So it seems as though Jesus is contradicting himself. Like he's saying you have to have faith and you have some faith, but not enough faith. But if you only had a little bit of faith, then you would have been able to cast out this demon. So it's kind of confusing. But let's read it from a different translation to help us out with this confusion. The New King James reads this way. So Jesus said to them, because of your unbelief, for assuredly I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Now that makes a little bit more sense, right? Jesus is saying that they have a belief problem. That the disciples had a belief problem, a problem that Jesus himself did not have. Remember now, belief means an opinion or judgment in which someone is fully persuaded. And I think in these times of faith, like you and I maybe aren't fully persuaded that God, that like I was reading about, God wasn't surprised by COVID-19, that God is not in control, that God may not be working this all out for our good, that God isn't shaping us through the trial, that God isn't using this to grow his kingdom. We could be confused. We might have a belief problem also, which is affecting our faith. See, remember, belief means an opinion or a judgment in which someone is fully persuaded. And my question to you right now is, are you fully persuaded that God is in control, that God wants to use your life, that God wants to grow his kingdom, that God is growing his kingdom, that God is molding and shaping the hearts of men and women so that he can continue to lead them to him? Do you believe those things? Because if we do, then we will begin to act those things out. So our beliefs are things that we are thoroughly convinced of. And I am thoroughly convinced that God is using this as a resetting moment. Our beliefs grow and change through new information or experience. Our beliefs can change over time as we learn more and experience more, right? Isn't that true? I mean, as we learn more and experience more, we go, I fully believe that. Maybe you didn't know about gravity, like I talked about a moment ago, but as you've dropped things in your life, hopefully not your iPhone or your phone that cracked the screen, but I'm sure you become fully convinced of those things by the evidence that gravity is at work. So if we look at faith in this context, we see that faith is more easily understood this way. Faith equals belief plus action plus confidence. Let me say that again. Faith equals belief plus action plus confidence. See, when we believe the truth with enough confidence to take action, we exercise our faith. And it doesn't take much of that faith to see huge things happen, even miraculous things. Like when we were starting Activate Church, I had enough belief and we took enough action, and I had enough confidence that God would bring people, that God would use us to speak to people's lives as we lived out what he was calling us to specifically. Now, I had some doubt, but I had enough belief that God wanted to have an expression of his love through Activate Church for Huntington Beach. And we took action on that. And something miraculous happened. The group of people that we have that are doing life together, that miss each other, all of you guys that miss each other so much right now, that happened because we had faith, we took action and belief and confidence, and those things produced this faith that actually made something miraculous come to life. Something that we're all missing right now. You can see where unbelief, that is, believing things that aren't true, believing lies, completely clogs up the works in our faith. If we believe things can't happen, then we can't have a living faith. It's a faith that's dead, like James said. Unbelief prevents us from ever seeing the miraculous in our lives. And I believe that to be true. I believe that if we don't believe things can happen, if I never would have believed that I could be loved by a woman, I never would have had the wife that I have, the children that I have, and the family that I have. It took the belief that somebody could love someone like me, and somebody could commit their life to someone like me, to even step out in faith and ask that girl for a date. And miraculous things have happened from that. So our problem here is really with unbelief, not a lack of faith. It's that unbelief. See, the good news is that we can change our unbelief into belief. It's really fairly simple and straightforward process. It really is. Become more fully persuaded by acting on what you know or think you know to be true. See, you may not know some things to be true. You may not think God is using you in this time. You may not think an encouraging word to a neighbor, to a friend. You may not think commenting on somebody encouragingly on someone's Facebook page would do anything in their life because you don't have the belief. But I ask you, take that step of faith. Put your faith into action. Put that belief in action, then you'll see that your life is meaningful, that your life is making a difference in this world, that God is working through your life to reach people who are far from Him. When you see that, you'll begin to see miraculous things happen in your life, and your faith will grow. The more that you do that, the more you'll be persuaded, the more your belief will grow, the more you'll have confidence to act out what you believe. Basically, put God's teachings to the test so that you'll become more fully convinced that God is trying to use you, that God is trying to shape you. He's trying to change you. If we're thoughtful, isn't this how we grew from ignorant children into being adults? Isn't that how we learned? Isn't that how we learned that gravity functioned? Didn't we test everything? Don't touch, that'll burn you. Still had to touch it and learn that I got burned, right? Don't do that. You'll fall and hurt yourself. We still had to tempt gravity and fall and hurt ourselves. Keep doing that and you'll be successful. We still had to continue on and realize that hard work and determination, continuing doing something, is what brings about the miraculous and pays off. Now I want to try to land this plane. We know we're all being shaped constantly by God. You and I, our friends, those who we go to church with. He's always working in our lives to shape us and mold us into the image that He desires for us to be. Not that He's not dissatisfied with who we are, but He's molding us into a better version of ourselves constantly. These confusing times are being used to shape us all and to grow the kingdom. I know God is at work. God is not a God of fear, and these times are not to be fearful, but to be faithful, to act on what we believe and have confidence that if we act, miraculous things will happen. To be faithful, we have to put our beliefs, what we think or maybe think, or what we fully believe, to put those into actions and stand firm that God's ways are not our ways, but they are useful in growing us. We may not understand why we have to do everything we do, why we have to go through all of the situations we need to go through. But God does, and they are necessary for us becoming who He's leading us to become. And if we believe that God is still working in and through us, we are confident that all things will turn out good. And if we put action behind our beliefs, then we will have the faith to move mountains in these uncertain times. I believe that. I believe that God is going to do something miraculous. He's already begun doing it through this, in changing people's minds who were lost and caught up on the hamster wheel of this world. Last time I posted a video, we talked about how God is resetting our society in many ways, awakening us to the truth about ourselves and about what is meaningful, about the things that are really valuable in this life, the things we should be giving our attention and our action to. And here's a story I wanted to tell you about. I have an old high school friend. At the very beginning of this, this person needed distilled water. So I reached out. She said, I can't find distilled water for her. I need it for my daughter, something or other treatment. And I had just bought some. I forgot what I had bought it for. Oh, I was putting water in the radiator of the truck after I put the radiator in. And I had bought an extra gallon and I didn't need it, and I had it and I offered it, and she was so grateful that I would have offered it. I didn't end up getting it to her, but because she found someone else that was closer. But because of that interaction, I stayed in contact and watched on Facebook, and I see her posts, and she owns her own business. Her life was pretty busy, corporate life, leading a small business, and I've seen fear creep in her life, and through losing contracts and all that, wondering how to keep employees paid, wondering how the business was going to stay afloat, how they were going to pay their own bills. And I watched her dive headlong into being a mom and loving her daughter. And at first it was very difficult. She was more fearful. And then just recently, I've been able to watch this transformation of the fear in her life has just melted away as she's really become to enjoy, really come to enjoy family, her child. They're doing all kinds of things, gardening and making messes and all that. And I can see in this time, it's a resetting in people, an awakening. And this transformation has happened on Facebook right before my eyes. And it's just been incredible to watch this journey. She doesn't know that I'm just kind of spying on her, and that's what Facebook's kind of for in some ways, I guess. But I believe that this story is indicative of a lot of people in our lives. They're not going to be the same people. This is a transformational event and occurrence in our lives, and we will not be the same. And I want us to be ready to take the opportunity and take advantage of this opportunity to reach people who are far from God with the love that God has, the community that He has given us. See, look, we have a lot of opportunity in front of us. And people like my friend from high school that are going to have their worldview up in the air. See, we are perfectly positioned to lead people to the truth of God, His love, community, generosity, service, hope. And I believe inject life, real life, abundant life, into people's dull lives that were chasing the wind, that were chasing fame, success as the world sees it. And I think we're going to have incredible opportunities. So I say to us here, what do we believe? What do we believe that God is doing? Do we believe that God is in control? Do we believe that God is working all this out for our good? Do we believe that God is shaping us for the trials and tests and the harvest that He has for us beyond this stay-at-home order? Do we believe those things? Do we believe God is working on growing His kingdom right now? And if so, if we believe a little bit of that, are we willing to take action and to put our belief into action with confidence that God is going to do something, and that we'll work out this faith, and that our faith will continue to grow, and it won't be a dead faith, but it'll be a faith that is lively. That's what I want for all of us. That's what I want for our church. That's what I want for us individually, to be living out, to have the confidence in our beliefs, to know what God is trying to do, to believe that He's doing something great and something new, and to take part in what God is doing through this time. Got a couple of updates for us. First one, Royal Family Kids Camp. Some sad news here, but hopeful news, and something I want us to be prayerful of. Royal Family Kids Camp, we've had to cancel our week in June. We can't even use the campground at that date. We were getting behind in fundraising and recruiting and all that anyway, so we're going to have to move that along later into the summer. But I have talked to Chico, the director of the ranch, essentially, we're going to be talking week in, week out, and finding out when we can do something at the ranch before the end of summer. He said there are some openings, so we're working on waiting until we could even take kids somewhere. We couldn't even take kids at this point. So be prayerful on that. If you've been giving to Royal Family Kids Camp, continue to give online. If you know somebody who still wants to go, the links are still open. You can find those on our Royal Family Kids Camp page at huntingtonbeach.royalfamilykids.org. You can go on there to get involved, and you can check the links or click on the links for application, fill those out if you know somebody who would still like to go. Secondly, I would like to do another Zoom meeting. We had a good time on that. So look for an email. Maybe in probably the end of the week, we'll do another Zoom meeting, maybe on a Friday night again. That seemed to work well for everybody. So let's do this Friday night. We'll get an email out. Look for that email link and join us probably around 7 p.m. We'll go for an hour. Pray together, laugh together, tell some stories, encourage one another, see each other's faces, and I'll be able to laugh at all of you that didn't get a COVID cut yet, because my hair is nice and tight because I got great kids and a great wife. And if you need anything, be sure and reach out. Reach out to us at info@activateme.tv, or if you've got our phone numbers, which most of all of you do, just text if you need something. We have time to put things together and take care of our community. If you know somebody who's really struggling, let us know. We would love to be able to be a light in this dark time for those people. So until next time, I love you guys. Be faithful people. Put your belief into action with confidence that God is going to do something miraculous. And let's see what God does as we engage in this faith journey together. I love you guys. I'll see you next week at Huntington Beach. Hun-